What is going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Chase. I'm your host, Christian Dyer, professional and international rugby player on a mission to inspire you to chase your own dream, giving you insight and real-life stories from some of the world's most esteemed individuals, including today's guest, who is not only a friend of mine, but a graduate from my alma mater, University of California, Berkeley, who is now a professional soccer player for Inter Miami, where he has earned the role of starting goalie and has helped his team win their first ever trophy in the 2023 Leagues Cup. So without further ado, let's get into it, brother. What's going on?
Hey Christian, man, thanks for the intro and thanks for opening up this space for me to come and share some of my story and connect with you and hopefully inspire your listeners and to have a great discussion today.
Dude, when I threw on my Instagram story that you were coming on, 15, 20 DMs, about 50 questions from people that, we posted. And so I think people are excited for this one. Of course, given the fact that you're playing with some big names, playing for, an owner that has a huge name. Not going to say it yet, but just had a big Netflix, series on him. And they definitely want to hear your perspective on life, on sport, and navigating this whole world that we're all trying to, find our own space and get our feet under ourselves. So I'm stoked to have you on. I'm grateful that, you're in my life and you can be a guiding light into everyone listening. So let's go back to young Drake. And let's leave soccer out of the conversation right now, and let's hear about your upbringing and what exactly about it is important for everyone listening to understand who you are as a person.
Yeah, I really like that approach because above sports, above what we do, we all are who we are. We all are individuals, and my story starts in Northern California. I grew up in Sacramento, like Christian.
916, baby.
But yeah, it was in a little suburb called Fair Oaks. Me, my parents, I have an older brother, Ian, who's about 2.5 years older than me, and just grew up, simple life. I spent a lot of time outdoors, spent a lot of time near the American River. I think the location of Sacramento was good because we weren't too far away from like the Bay Area and like the coast, and not too far away from like the mountains, whether you want to go north, whether you want to go east towards like the Sierras or like Lake Tahoe. And I went to this school called Orangeville Open, and it was a K through 8. I went there the whole time, and we had each year we would do some sort of like outdoors field trip, whether it was an overnighter, whether it was a day thing. I think that was kind of a way for me to understand nature and outdoors and the benefits that had to like my soul, to my mind, to just like my like awareness. Spending a lot of time outdoors, I really gained an appreciation for that, and that's something that has stayed with me throughout my life, and it has really become a tool for me to access whenever I need it. Whether it's, I'm in South Florida now, whether it's the beach, growing up in NorCal, I spent a lot of time, in like forests and going on hikes. And so a lot of my childhood was spent outdoors. Me and my brother would spend a lot of time outdoors. And, I kind of lived like a simple life. It wasn't anything too crazy. Enjoyed hanging out with friends. It was a very, very calm childhood. I had a good support system with like my parents. They, showed that unconditional love from day one. And as I got older, that relationship has grown a lot, and as, I'm sitting here at 26, it's great to be able to have that relationship and have parents who show love and care and you can still talk to. So, young Drake was just very active, I think, to put an umbrella over it.
What's nice is, obviously you're fortunate to have an amazing family, amazing upbringing, but you found at your core kind of what makes you you. And I know to this day that you still take this holistic approach to life, whether that's getting out in nature. I know you're into yoga, you spend time at the beach. And so say life gets crazy, hectic, there's ups, there's downs, you can always resort back to your core. So to have that understanding and that awareness of who you are and what makes you you is so nice, and you're privileged to have that, because not everybody can, I guess, understand what gets them going or who they are at their core.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really big point, and the foundation that I was able to build growing up kind of allowed me to just have that as an option as I got older. Because as you get older, I think life starts to get a little more complicated. There's a lot more expectations. There's new relationships. There's a lot of things happen as you get older. You know, whether
Yeah.
you're in high school and college, beyond college, there's so much that you start to get involved in, and having a balance and having a way to kind of reset whenever you might get into a funk or get into, you know, difficult times. Having something that can kind of bring you back to center is really important.
Yep. Yep. Man, let's get into a little bit of your athletic career, and give me the intro to soccer for you. And you can give us a progression from young days to then going to play for Cap FC, then Placer United, and then you made the jump driving 2 to 3 hours a day down to San Jose to go play with the Earthquakes Academy. So give me that progression.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, right now, like the main sport is soccer. But growing up, I played, you know, soccer, baseball, basketball, track and field, ultimate frisbee, disc golf. I was kind of all over the place, and I really, you know, soccer was like the first sport I played, and it was the one that I enjoyed most. But
Mm.
it was back then. It was only like one season, so you know, the season ended, and the next thing comes around was baseball or basketball, and those rotate throughout my childhood until about, I would say, like freshman, sophomore year of high school. I really started to fully commit to soccer and have that be the sport that I, you know, kind of keep as like the thing I was going to try and go for. I was the vehicle in which I would use to become a pro athlete with soccer.
Yep. Yep.
Because my goal, or my dream, the thing I was chasing from a young age, was I wanted to be a pro athlete. I loved watching professional sports. I like going to games. I like going to, whether it was a River Cats game, whether it was a Quakes game, whether it was Sacramento Kings game. I loved, you know, professional sports, and so that was like around the years I fully committed to soccer. And with that commitment comes, you know, some pretty hard decisions. And like you spoke earlier, I ended up joining the Earthquakes Academy. I think that was like the back end of 2014 or 2015. And during the time I was living in Sacramento, the Quakes were actually, one day of the week they would train in like Walnut Creek. The other day they would train closer to like San Jose, like San Jose State.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was pretty manageable my first year. You know, me and my dad would commute to Walnut Creek and San Jose, and those drives were long and difficult, but you know, sometimes that's the sacrifice that you have to make to get to where you want to go, is um, those long drives and that commitment to a team that is where you're going to get better. Because those
Yeah.
teams I was playing on, they were some of the best soccer players I had ever been around. And when I remember when I first joined, I felt like I was like a little bit behind. I
Mm-hmm.
was very athletic, but I wasn't by any means close to the skill level that I would need if I was going to pursue this in college.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I was like, man, like if I could be with this team full time, that would be amazing. And fast forward to my senior year of high school, I had the opportunity to actually move to San Jose and live with a teammate and be in San Jose and train with the team full time and play. And I went to this, it was like a little private boarding school called Cambrian Academy. Only about 80 students. It was maybe like 10 kids in my class. Very like one-on-one teacher to student approach.
Yep.
And that experience of moving away from home, playing at like probably the highest level of soccer for that age,
Yeah.
and time I could at the academy level, as well as being in a new teaching environment and schooling environment that was going to help prepare me for the academic level at UC Berkeley was so valuable of an experience because I was uncomfortable and I I had to learn to become more independent. I had to take ownership and accountability of what I was doing with my time and how I
Yeah.
was training and how I was studying. And that really set up the stage for my time at Cal because then that just took it up a notch to, you know, being a student athlete in itself is difficult.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I loved it. I loved that challenge of getting good grades, of competing well, of staying fit, of getting closer to that dream of being a pro. And I felt like once I made it to Cal, then it was just one step closer to where I wanted to go.
It's a unique approach because, I mean, you're familiar with European systems. You basically bypass college. You go straight to academy from high school for everybody listening. And if you're lucky enough, you're good enough, then, you go into the professional setup where hopefully you can crack the team. But here in America, it's a traditional high school, college, and then professional, I guess, progression. So, you made that decision. As much as it was a sacrifice, it was a choice because at the end of the day, you knew that was going to get you in the best position possible to chase the dream, to live, out that dream. But why Cal? Like what Coach Kevin and is it Henry Folk? Is that how you pronounce it?
Henry Folk, yeah.
I remember him when I was there. Like, why'd you choose Cal? And also, like, how important were they in your career development, both as a soccer player and as a person?
Yeah, so I mean those two coaches, man, those were probably some of the best coaches I've ever had. And when I was getting scouted, I didn't have many offers, if really any offers at the time. I mean, I again like when I was first joining the academy and I was junior senior in high school, I wasn't like an amazing player. I had a lot of potential, but like a I wasn't like a finished product by no means. And
Sorry to cut you off, but when did you like switch to goalie full time
I would say like my freshman or sophomore year
of college or high school? Sorry.
of high school. So I was about
Yeah.
like 15, 16 years old.
Okay. And
And
then why
so,
goalie?
well, it all started with this indoor game I played. And it's not like I wanted to play goalie, but they put me there and I did
Yeah.
really well. And I kind of fell in love with I kind of fell in love with the position. Like I could use every part of my body to stop the ball. There's a communication factor in there. There's a presence about the position that I just really enjoyed.
Hmm.
And it was like I grew within the sport that I originally played because I used to play on the field.
Yep.
And then becoming a goalie was almost like I got more freedom to use my hands to develop within the game even more. And
Hmm.
so that was my first feelings of, man, normally like I had a completely different perspective about goalkeeper before I played it. It's something I didn't want to do. And I played it and I was like, wow, this is actually like enjoyable. Like for some reason, like I could just I'm able to access a flow state or the zone so fast
Hmm.
whenever I play the position. It might just be because it requires a lot of attention and focus and visual focus on what's going on in front of you, as well as awareness of what's going on inside you. Because goalkeeping now, after being a pro, is a lot more mental than physical. Uh, it kind of varies, but I would say the majority is mental, and so that was something that was new for me, and I enjoyed that headspace of being in the zone and being in like a flow state because you know growing up I remember I would maybe get distracted during a game or something would happen, but as the goalkeeper I was just kind of just watching what was going on, and then you position yourself in the right spot and you communicate to your teammates, and you begin to learn more about the position, and it became very interesting, and it became something that I was like, man, I can actually feel like I could get pretty good at this.
Mm.
And I just followed that, and I think that interest always stayed, and it's still there. Like, I guess you could call it interest, you could call it a passion, you could call it a drive. I, rarely satisfied. Like, I feel good about trainings, I feel good about games, but there's always something that I could improve, or something that I feel like I could have done to get close to a perfect game.
No, I never will.
That's the thing, is like, it's, of all the games I've played, I don't think I've ever played a perfect game. And that's the thing about goalkeeping, is you can play amazing and you can still tie 0-0. And I think the objective when you're competing is to win. And so
100%.
there's
But I mean,
always.
you got to know though, that's a sign of number one, a high achiever, high performer, and all these individuals who have reached levels of success in whatever field they are. There's never a sense of complacency. Like, there's always a feeling that you're not doing enough, and that drives the work ethic. And so that's a good thing. That's actually a great thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think that is what that drive and that work ethic, recognized from a young age, and like the developmental phases, you end up reaping the rewards as you develop in the
Yeah.
sport. And because now it's, I feel like now I'm still not comfortable. I'm still, even after winning our first trophy, I'm still hungry for more,
Yeah.
and that's the indicator for me that, I still want to continue to do this, and I'm still passionate about it. Once I'm like, okay, I think, maybe I don't want to get up today and go to training, or maybe I don't want to travel to wherever and play this game. Once I start having those feelings, which are also natural,
Yep.
because it is a demanding sport. But again, I feel like it comes in waves. But from big picture, I'm like, man, this is what an opportunity, what a chance and time to be able to be a pro athlete and play with the players that I'm playing with, and compete in all these stadiums. Like, we played in Gillette Stadium when we played like the Revs. Like, I would have never thought I'd play in Gillette Stadium before. Like, that's it's crazy to me, man. It still blows my mind.
Bro, how'd you grow up? Were you chasing success, or were you scared of failure? Like, my upbringing, dude, I was so afraid to get it wrong, so afraid to fail. And it's probably because I was always playing for the wrong reasons, whether that's trying to impress pops, family, trying to impress my peers, my teammates. Like, I was so scared because all I wanted to do was be good and have these perfect moments in games. But as now I've matured, I've worked with sports psychologists, I've grown so much, not just as a rugby player, but as a human. You never reach a level of perfection that you're trying to go for. So I've changed the conversation from perfection to progress. And now it's all about, like, damn, what can I do on the field? Who can I inspire off the field? And it's taken so much pressure off of me that I wish I had, I didn't experience at Cal. So where'd you fall on those lines, and where do you fall today?
Yeah, bro. I mean, I was terrified of failing. I was terrified of getting of losing,
Yeah.
of not being the best, of not achieving my goals. Even when you look at like the micro perspective, like during a game, like, I was afraid of missing a pass. I was afraid of the ball going through my hands.
You're just
When
thinking about freaking everything.
Yeah, and I think that at first is what I was like. All right, like, I just want to get to the point where I'm not, or I feel like I'm not failing. I was still developing an understanding of what failing meant, or what
Mhm.
losing meant, or what winning was, and what success was. Because I feel like success has a bunch of different meanings, and it's different for everybody based on what you're going for. And
Yeah.
I think I think it's changed a lot, because, as I sit here, you could consider, like, this is my second season really, in like a starting position. We've won games, we've done well,
Yeah.
but like, everything, all the failure that I've had, all the successes I've had have led up to this moment. And I learned so much from those moments of hardship, from that adversity, that down the line, if you are successful, if you do win, if things are going well, like that hardship prior to that happening had to happen in order for you to get there. So every time I think about, man, like I wish this didn't happen, or man, that was difficult, I hope it doesn't happen again, I always remind myself like these moments build character, and these moments have a lot of value if you have the right perspective around what it means to go through like those hardships.
Yep.
And it's part about getting the experience. It's like, for me growing up, like I used to dwell on getting scored on for so long. Like I couldn't stop thinking about getting scored on. Like if we concede a goal, I would think about it for like the rest of the half.
Yeah.
And then that's just hindering my mental capacity to play the game.
Have you ever read Neutral Thinking by Trevor Moawad?
I haven't, but that sounds like a great book.
Russell Wilson's performance coach, mental performance coach. I mean, he passed away. Rest in peace to him. But you would love the book. It's all about thinking neutral. It's almost a stoic approach to sport and life, but it's about thinking everything, like looking at it from such an objective lens. So say you get scored on, first 10 minutes into the game. Well, cool. That's literally done with. That doesn't affect the rest of the 70 minutes, because that's what's the next most important thing. So it's like training your brain to just understand, all right, that's in the past. Let's get back to normal, and let's get back to what I'm good at. And I think it has so many parallels to life. Things are not always going your way, but that ability to focus on the next most important thing is what is going to, determine your future success, or the success the next 70 or 80 minutes in a soccer game.
100%, dude. Once you accept the adversity and once you kind of surrender to the circumstance that you're in, then it's like, all right, then you can decide where to go. Am I going to dwell on this, or am I going to keep going forward? Because so much can happen in a game.
Yeah.
If you let one moment dictate the rest of the game, or one moment dictate how you're feeling like the rest of the day, that's, I've heard the analogies of like how long you have in a day, and like how one negative thing can feel a lot bigger than it actually is. And it took me a while to get to the point where I could shoulder that adversity and learn from it, and like, all right, it happened. It's in the past, and the thing I have control over is my attitude and my decisions going forward. So that's definitely a big one as a goalkeeper, because I always told myself growing up, I'm always going to believe I can keep clean sheets and save every single ball and make good plays. But I also understand that goals are a part of the game. So whether you like it or not, it's going to happen at some point. And if you're able to have that mindset of like, man, I'm going to do everything in my power to be at my best, and whatever happens, you'll have no regrets when you walk off the field.
What's your process like now? Say, opposition, they score on you, go from, when the ball hits the net, what's going on through your head, conversation you're having, maybe with your defense, and then focusing on the next task. How are you going about it today?
Yeah, I would say that one kind of varies. Sometimes, you also have to know who your teammates are. And you also have to understand what part of the game it is. And sometimes when I always take full responsibility whenever a goal gets conceded. That's like first thing is like, I always feel like that's just like the standard is like the ball's not going to get past me. If it does, then I have to look at myself first. And so, for example, if let's say someone scores great shot off the post in upper 90, whatever it is, 1v1, however they score, I'm the first feeling, because I'm so passionate about what I do, is probably a little bit like frustration and anger. Like, all right, like that's like the fire of like the competitiveness that I have. And then once I kind of get that out, then it's like, all right, like how do I give healthy, supporting, if need be, criticism to my teammates to motivate them to continue on in the game and to do
Yep.
better. I'm never going to blame. I'm always going to try my best to give them what they need in that moment. Is that a pat on the back? Is that maybe a little bit more of like a bark and like like get on it? Or sometimes it's just like going, grabbing some water, taking a moment, clapping your hands, like, all right, guys, like next play.
Yeah.
And it kind of changes. There's kind of like a flow to it, because the last thing I want to do is have a negative effect on my teammates and my team.
What do
Normally
you?
when go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, what do you hate the most? Getting scored on from like a PK or an open field ball or a corner? Like, what's the worst shot to concede?
For me, man, it's like through the legs. Like sometimes I
Oh.
feel, I know, I feel so vulnerable, and it's a difficult. It's one of the most simple but difficult shots to block,
Yeah.
because there's so much that goes into it. Like it's just, you feel like you can maybe do like a sweep kick, or you could drop your knee in, or it's just like the ones that are right in like your bubble, where it's
Yeah.
like close to you, but maybe you're not fast enough, or there was like a deflection. And the ones that go through my legs kill me, man. I swear that might be one of the most frustrating goals to concede. Um,
How
and
do you approach defending like a PK? Because yeah, maybe there's a level of like there's cues that you can probably get from the guy that's kicking, but is it a big guessing game?
I would say that, yeah, I don't think anyone knows where, like, you can't 100% know where the
Yeah.
opponent is going to shoot the ball. And I think there is a lot of pressure to score, and they're probably supposed to score, you know? And so for me, there's ways you can study. You can look at their past PKs. You can look at if they favor one side, if they're right footed or left footed. What part of the game is it? Like if you're taking a PK, the last 5 minutes of the game, you're probably going to go with your most confident and strongest type of PK, And if there's a trend for that player that he's scored more one side to the other side, then that could kind of be, that kind of gives you an idea of where he could place the ball.
Mm.
But for me, it's more of like the presence and like how you can gain control of the situation. Say the ref blows the whistle, calls the PK. Maybe you go and grab the ball. Maybe you take your time. Maybe you go over to your water bottle. The more time it takes for him to take the PK, I think the better it is for you, because might have more time to think about what he's going to do. Maybe he already knows, but maybe it's just like, man, this is taking like a long time. I just want to get this over with.
Maybe he starts second guessing where he's going to go.
Second guessing, maybe, you never know. There's a bunch of different ways to try and get in their head, or to try and influence that situation. And maybe the ref, everything's set up, and then maybe you go and tie your shoe. Maybe it takes longer. Maybe you bang your cleats on the post. Maybe you have the visual effect of putting your arms out or moving side to side. And it's kind of like a game of cat and mouse. Maybe you shift a little bit more to one side, and makes it, for him, it may feel like there's more space there. There's like the thing is, like, I'm not much of a gambler. Like, I really like to be honest in how I approach situations. And so I just try and look as big as possible. And once I commit to one side, I commit, and I go. And if it goes the other way, then it goes the other way. But as long as I can get to the posts and cover low and high, then I think that's all.
Yep.
That's all you can do.
And then you say you save it. What's the rush like?
So this is funny, because I feel like goalkeepers don't really get to celebrate.
Yeah.
I feel like there's very, very few moments of celebrating as a goalkeeper. But for example, I made my first pro or first team PK save against Atlanta this year. It was towards like the end of the game, maybe like there's like five or so minutes left, and I make the save, and like the ball goes wide, and like, it's just like it's probably I might feel better than scoring a goal,
Mm.
and it's kind of like I feel like a super villain almost, and it's kind of like I don't know. I feel like if you are going to celebrate, it's got to be in like a shootout or at the end of the game, because if there's say you make a PK save in like the 20th minute, it's like there's still a whole game to play.
Yep.
Who knows what's going to happen.
Yep.
So I try to, if I do celebrate, it's got to be either like a game winner or it's like close to the end of the game where it's like pretty like a done deal. But it's a pretty cool rush. It's a
I'm
pretty
sure, bro. Dog. All
pretty
right.
gnarly.
I want to fast forward a little to your professional career, your professional debut, and if the dream was always to play professional, like what was your reaction at first, knowing you're going to play professional soccer, you sign your contract, and then even more, what was that like knowing you were going to David Beckham's team?
Yeah, man, that was like a landmark in my life thus far. Funny, I actually signed my first professional contract in Cafe Strada.
No way.
Yeah, they emailed it to me, and I was like, I'm gonna go to Cafe Strada right now and do it.
The holy grail of cafes, coffee, and studying, if you know Berkeley, California.
Yeah. But yeah, man, that was like, again, it's like a landmark event in my life that I, was able to work towards, in all the time, all the energy, everything that you put towards achieving this one thing happens. And it was something that, didn't feel real until I was on the field in the training kit
Yeah.
with other pros, but still signing your name on there and like dating it. And I still like remember it to this day. And, it was a interesting, it's not like I was like a pick in the draft and I got the scarf and the hat. It was my academy, my homegrown player rights got picked up or traded to Inter Miami. And so instead of going to the Quakes, I went to Inter Miami. And I remember when I left, saying bye to my family. Growing up in Sacramento, I was a hour and a half drive from Berkeley, so I see them pretty often. But now you're flying all the way across the country to a completely different place. It's almost a different culture. It's like very different from where I grew up, And so there's that transition period of transitioning from student athlete to pro athlete, transitioning from being in somewhere that you're familiar with to going to somewhere you are completely new to, new people, new food.
Yep.
A lot of Spanish speaking down here. That's a continuous work in progress for me. And even hearing like, oh, this is David Beckham's team. That's like one of the most iconic players to ever play the sport. And just looking back, it was such a surreal experience to even meet him. I remember when I first met him, it was like at a team dinner. It's just like, back then I was like starstruck, like, oh my God, this is David Beckham. Like this guy came to the league over a decade ago, and now he's on the other side of being a player. He's like an owner, and that's just also very inspirational to see and get to meet. Also get to know someone who has done what you're doing, but at the highest level, and to have the influence on sport and culture that he's had has been. It's almost hard to find words for it, because coming from a little small suburb up in Sacramento to meeting and playing for David Beckham's team just blows my mind. It's like a really like a dream come true. But yeah, that was definitely something that I feel was challenging and very difficult at first. But again, anytime there's like a transition, there's always, in my experience, I've always felt discomfort or
Yeah.
not really. It takes a while to kind of get used to the new pace of things,
Oh, for
and
sure. We're creatures of habit. And so when we break a habit or an environment, you're always subject to feel, a certain way, whether that's good, bad, anywhere in between. But change creates opportunity and opportunity creates growth. And so that's what you've done with it. And the coolest thing is you talk about a dream and now you're living the dream. And that's literally like why I have the chase is like, what are you chasing? How are you getting there? And what lessons from your journey, which you've already given a handful of gold nuggets, can the next generation pick up and implement into their life now so they don't have to go through some of the shit that we went through? But going more on Beckham, is he around a lot? Like, do you see him
yeah, yeah.
weekly,
I
daily?
mean, as busy as his schedule
Yeah.
is, he shows face, and that's, I think, important as a player to actually see someone who helped lay like the groundwork of what you're experiencing. The
Yeah.
vision that he had is immense, to from the facility, how it's designed, to the stadium, to the location. That was a vision that he had, and he brought it to life. And now, all the players who have represented Air Miami have gone to experience that.
Mm.
And he's also very, like, again, it's, at first I was like starstruck, but then you see him the next day, and then a few weeks from now he's on the sideline watching training, and then at first I was like a little nervous to go up and talk to him, but then you go up and talk to him, and again, he's, again, like, we're all human.
He's a person.
He's a person, and that
Yeah.
was a he that those experiences, those interactions made me feel like, wow, like, regardless of what you've done, where you've been, who you are, like, we're all human. And for him to have that humility and that humbleness, and whether it's 5 minutes in the gym before practice, he spends time to chat with me or one of the players, like, he understands that, and I feel like he understands the influence, and like it's almost like what that interaction can do for a player,
Mm.
and he's been a great owner thus far in terms of just being around and supporting us. And I mean, he leads by example. He sometimes, I remember one preseason he was like doing a possession drill with us. I was pretty sick, and he still has a love for the sport. And
Does he still have a magic touch?
oh, dude, for players like that, I don't think you lose a touch. Like, he's still still got the touch.
What
So
about his approach to sport, to life, to building a brand, a team? Like, what about his approach are you taking and trying to implement into your own life?
yeah, so we can actually tie some of the documentary into this, because I learned a lot in the Beckham documentary recently. But I feel that I've noticed, like, he was never afraid to be different, and whether that was what color boots he was wearing, what he was doing with his hair, he was himself, and that was very important to him. And so, you know, being a pro athlete, you have this huge platform, and you start to build a network with players you compete against, with brands you could work with people you meet, and
Mm.
those relationships, I think, given the right time and how you connect with people, they can last a lifetime. And that's very important, because you never know who you'll meet or how you'll meet them, and if you guys will connect. Or I've met so many people as a pro, and that's something that I'm starting to value a little bit more, because who knows where you'll end up, who knows how long you'll play, who knows. There's so much unknown about life that I think, having options off the field, or just getting to know people and whatever capacity, whatever industry you're also interested in, is really important, because now he's a global icon who, there's probably a long list of everything that he's involved in,
Yeah.
and so I think he's applied what he's learned from sports to life, and there's so much lessons and knowledge you can gain from the experience of being a pro athlete.
There's two scenes from the series that stuck out to me. One, when he was at Real and the coach told him, "You're never going to play for me again." And then Beckham continued to show up, run around the pitch day in and day out. To have that level of like grit, I'd say, just to go through. And then when his name gets called months later, and then he has that PK, and he just nails it, I was like, dude, you're a dog.
Yeah. The thing is, you can't control the decision that your coach is going to make. The best thing you
Yeah.
can do is show up as your best every single day, and that's what he did. It's almost like going through the storm. If you head through the storm, you'll get past the storm probably faster than if you let it come to you. And I feel like he had a lot of moments in his career that, it was pretty stormy, and the mental fortitude and strength, emotional fortitude and strength that is required to perform at that level in the leagues he played in and the World Cups he played in, just goes to show the, like, when you think you're down and out, it's at that point where you probably can demand more yourself and go beyond that doubt and really get to where you want to go.
Second scene is when Beckham's on the phone with Messi, and he looks at the camera and he's like, he'll be here soon. And the fact that you're at Miami, like, could you even believe the fact that Messi was coming to play for the team that you're on?
Yeah, I kind of had to put a force field around my thoughts, because it's kind of a lot to think about. But we were in an Open Cup quarterfinal playing. We were in Birmingham, Alabama, and we were at lunch. So it's I think the game was at 7 or 8. We had lunch around noon, and then it's pregame meal around 3 or 4. And between that lunch and pregame meal span was when the news broke. Everyone showed up to pregame meal kind of looking around is this actually happening? So then we had to go play a game, and then it's wow, it's things just kind of start to change in terms of, again, the influence one player can have. I mean, David knows this, on a team, on a league, on a culture, is immense. And so, just the idea of even sharing the field on the same team, even if it was playing against him, that's also a very amazing experience. But to share the field with him is,
with someone who's, as some regard, the best player of all time.
Yeah, that's the part of this experience right now that if there's any gratitude going towards something in my life, is probably that, because there's so much you can learn, and so much you can learn about yourself, so much you can learn about the sport, how you play the game, your approach as a professional. And not only was it Messi that joined our team, it was Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets, who were also two absolute legends.
3 guys who played for prime Barcelona.
Yeah, probably the best players in their respective positions. And that is something that you can't really prepare for. It kind of just happens, I wasn't thinking last year, oh yeah, these 3 guys are going to join our team. And then, it kind of just happened. And then I felt that, I've been here this is my 4th season with the team. I'm I know what it's like to transition from one league to another league to turn pro. It's these guys are also going through a transition, going from their previous teams to Inter Miami to this different league. It might be a bit more demanding in terms of travel. It's just different than what they experienced before. So that was again a leadership opportunity that some of us recognize. It's like, how do we keep the culture strong? How do we make these guys feel like they're at home?
Mm.
How do we lead by example? Like, these guys are expected just to show up and start performing at their best. Like, imagine how much pressure is on those guys to get results, because the expectation is so high. And so
you keep going.
Yeah, so the expectation was so high that I feel like everyone recognized that and looked at it as an opportunity to really grow as a team.
You got Messi, Busquets, and Alba on your team. Teammates every single day. You're playing in games with them. What are they teaching you about life and soccer?
Yeah, so this is a interesting question because as much influence and teaching and lessons that I've learned thus far, I think the entire group that we have is diverse and very unique. So like, we have players from all around the world, from Europe, South America, um, US, and it's interesting to see how players with that much experience operate.
Yeah.
And the similarities, like I alluded to earlier, like the similarities between them and the rest of our team. But again, like there is something that sets them apart. And I think it's it's almost like just from seeing them play, there's almost like a deception of like, you think you think where they're going to pass the ball, what they're going to do, but then at the last second it changes and bow, perfect through ball or nutmeg or slotted in like the corner. So I think this their understanding of like of timing while they're playing, their understanding of space, their understanding of, or their awareness of other players around them and how they're moving, and it's just so advanced that I understand why they're considered some of the best players in the world. But again, they I think above all else, they love to play soccer. And they love camaraderie, and that passion for a team sport, that passion for the game, that energy is contagious and it's shared. And so I think when you're competing and you see your teammates giving their all, that spreads throughout the team. And throughout the season, even before they came, I felt like everyone was kind of giving their all and we weren't getting results. And then these guys came, and it was almost like a wake-up call of like, man, like we can give more. If we think we're giving our all, we could probably give some more. And so that was one of the lessons I've learned, is whether it's a free kick in the 90th minute that he scored multiple times in his short stint with us.
How about
this
his
season.
First game where you had Kim K in the stands, you had Beckham, you had her right behind, like it was almost just like it was almost like a scene of a movie. Like all these stars are aligning, all these things are falling in place, and then Messi hits his PK, and then Beckham's reaction was like,
there was. I remember walking out that game one of the group stages of Leagues Cup, and there's like the suite next to me. There's like Serena Williams, LeBron James. I think Kim K was there. And it's just like, man, like the magnitude of what this means for soccer in the US and just like the sport is huge, because again, you have someone who's unconditionally themselves, who loves to play soccer and does it day in, day out. And that's special, to be able to go out there just to live a life where you've so much, seems like so much passion for and so much love for the game, it's almost like you were born to do it. and just, does it day in, day out. It's amazing.
And you can, because there's tons of questions from people wanting to talk to you about what Messi and Busquets and Alba, obviously three big names on the team, like what they're like off the field, who they are as people. So you can go by it one by one or just kind of categorize them in all in one. But can you give some insight onto who they are just as humans?
Yeah, I think kind of like an umbrella is like they all really just like to enjoy life. Like, yeah, they all have their respective personalities and characteristics, but there's again like good people, good players, better people. Actually, great players, even better people. And
That's awesome.
that, yeah, that's like just to share space, just to say good morning to these guys, just to
Do they have
have.
you drinking mate yet or mate?
I've tried it, but I haven't committed to the giant
Nah,
thing.
I stick with my coffee, man.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, man, they're just great people, man.
Yeah.
They're respectful. They they show up every day. You know, they go through the same things that we go through. The trainings, the travel. The I don't know too much about what they do on their downtime, but they show up every day and they're in with the team, and that's that's great. It's great for our team culture. It's great to see that we aren't so different from some of the best to do in the world, and there are similarities that I find between them and like having like a good performance, like the extra reps, like the time in the gym, the time they're
Yep.
doing like recovery and like the training room, just top professionals,
Yeah.
and there's always I've always noticed like if I have a great day of training, I tend to have a great rest of the day. If I have a good game the following day, like I'm like if we win, I'm like buzzing. It's like yeah, like we won. It felt good, but there's always that balance of like you work hard. Sometimes again things don't go your way. Sometimes you do everything you can, you don't get the result. The Even sometimes seeing like their reactions to like a tie is like these are like serial winners. Like this guy won his 44th trophy when we won Leagues Cup. 44 trophies is it's just an absurd number.
No, it's hard to comprehend that.
Like I have one trophy, and that was one of the most craziest experiences I've had. Like the
Yeah.
rush, the high, and even some players go their entire careers and they get close, or even
Yep.
it's something that there's only a few opportunities in your career to be in a position to win a trophy, and for us to do it in the fashion that we did was something special.
Man, that's incredible. That's all. I mean, obviously, I'm a huge fan of sport and high level athletes. So to hear some of that stuff's pretty dang cool. But like I told you before we hit record, I want to finish this off before we get into some questions from fans in the audience. I want to hear about life outside of sport for you, the things you're doing to fill your cup outside of soccer, and also things that you're putting into place. So hopefully, long down the road, after you accomplish everything you want to accomplish, when you hang up the cleats, that transition is as seamless as possible.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's a topic that is important for everybody, but especially for anybody who's in sports or athletics,
Yeah.
or who at some point, if you're an athlete, you will go through a transition from playing to not playing. And so for me, of course, like the priority is performance and soccer.
Yep.
But again, it's the schedule is much different from what I've experienced my whole life, because it's, I would say between 7:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. is kind of dedicated to training and recovery, like at the facility, at the field, that first part of the day is kind of what I dedicate my time to. And then you have the rest of the day to kind of do what you want to do. And for some, that's I'm gonna just chill, maybe take a nap, rest, and get ready for tomorrow. But I see that as a lot of time to strategize, to work on a system and process that's gonna benefit your performance, but also benefit your life. So in terms of like, I'll say this in terms of like, you mentioned like filling my cup. Like for example, when my energy is right, I feel like I'm capable of doing this again and again and again and again. So even if I dedicate that first part of the day to trainings and performance, there's still things I'll do in the second part of the day that is also helping me prepare for the next day from like a recovery perspective, whether that's a sauna, whether that's a float tank, whether that's a little walk or like a little bike ride. I try and do things that help me recover faster, so I have more of a capacity to work and more of a capacity to be productive. And productive for me has started to change a little bit from, going into my fourth year and playing a full season. I realized, man, this does take a toll on your body and your mind. And so, you can't do this for 30 years.
Yeah.
I'd say for a goalkeeper, you might have a little bit longer of like a shelf life, but I would say like, a decade to maybe 15 years is what you're looking at. Granted, you stay healthy, things go your way,
Yep.
And you still have like that passion. So, I found myself reading more books, learning about whatever I want to learn about, whether that was marketing or business or whatever it may be, whatever you're interested in, whatever you think you could use to your advantage outside of soccer, whether that's negotiation skills, whether that's engineering, it could be anything, so it's kind of up to me what direction I wanted to go in. And I find that I try and work on my communication skills a lot, networking skills. I do my best to stay connected to like my family, take time to take those calls, those FaceTimes, visits when I can, and ultimately stay healthy. The relationships that I have are very important to me, whether it's my fiance or whether it's my brother or a good friend or old coach. It's like you never know what that relationship could do for you in the future. And so,
or what you could do for them.
Exactly. Yeah. There's like that aspect of service and giving back, which I think for me is very fulfilling, man. Service, in whatever shape or form you serve in, whether it's like, for example, I went back to Berkeley a few weeks ago because I had some time on the West Coast and went and talked to the team and hung out with some of the guys. And in some sense, I'm like giving back to the program that helped me out, And so there's that feeling of fulfillment, I think, when you're in service to something greater than yourself, that I think is extremely just good for like the soul, it's good for like the spirit. And yeah, I mean, I kind of I've been dedicating more time to just like your personal brands. Like,
hold on, you popped off after you hit that game winner goal.
Dude, no, I
think I saw you gain, it was like 70,000 followers in the span of a few days or something like that.
Yeah, to start the year, I had around 4,000 followers, something like that. The thing is like I think it kind of started last year when I started playing. I was like, I'm gonna start sharing more of my story. I'm gonna start posting after games.
Yep.
Kind of building this rapport with my audience.
Yep.
And it's not like I had a bunch of followers, but then when opportunities like these tournaments and these games, or there's a lot more eyes on like your team happen, and then someone looks you up and they go to your page if they show up to my IG page and there is like 4 posts, like where's the engagement, like the interest may not be as much if you had 100 posts, 200 posts, however
Yeah.
posts you have. But like I wanted to be consistent with connecting to my audience. And when that happened, dude, it was just like I almost didn't know. I kind of like took like a second. I'm just gonna let this do its thing. But you never really know when something like that could happen. So being
Yep.
prepared for that was huge because I wasn't I wasn't really concerned about how many followers I had. I was more concerned about the content I was sharing, the connection with my audience, and the story I was telling through like my page.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
But now the fun thing, like this is the fun side about sport content, social media, branding is now you've positioned yourself to a place where you get to work with cool brands, events, product. Like this is almost like you're reaping the rewards of all the shit you've gone through. And that stuff's going to last a lifetime. And people, I've heard it the other day, like your social media is a new form of your personal resume. So the fact that you're conscious about being authentic, putting stuff out there that aligns with your core values is only going to build this credibility and rapport, like you said. And that's the type of stuff that's going to be able to transition with you from soccer to life after.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so many skills I've gained from being attentive to the personal branding, to the social media, to the content. And if you approach
Yep.
it with like the right perspective and understanding, it doesn't have to be toxic. It doesn't have to be consuming. It can be more of like a connection and more of like a space to connect and share. And that's kind of how I've been viewing it lately is what is the message that I'm sharing? Why am I doing this? You know, it's something that I think can help you out when
Yeah.
you may need some help in the future.
And something I've learned from getting more active on social media this last year is the more stuff that I make public on social media when it comes to how I train, my mindset, ways I think, different conversations through the podcast, it almost is like a form of self-therapy for me where I start to understand myself more. And by being vulnerable, putting stuff out on social media gives me reasoning and an understanding of why things have happened in my life and the way things are going. And it's a great outlet for me to just like learn and develop and grow as a person.
Yeah, man, that vulnerability piece is massive because
Yeah.
sometimes you don't know what people are going to say. I mean, you know, as like an athlete, you go out to a game, fans are saying all this crazy stuff.
Yep.
It's like sharing some sides of yourself is pretty vulnerable, but it takes some strength to actually be vulnerable, you know?
Yeah.
And I never wanted to be, uh, I heard this term the other day is FOPO, which is fear of other people's opinions. And it's kind of sat with me for a sec because I'm like, it's also something I can't really control is someone else's opinion. And I would hate for, you know, that to like affect someone deeply, you know, is everyone has the right to their opinion, but it's a matter of whether whether it's negative or positive. I feel like most of the time it's probably something that's probably negative. Like
Yeah.
how many times I've gone out onto the field and someone has said some really mean or nasty stuff to me, and if I wanna hear it or allow that affect me, I can, or I can just brush it off. You know, that's it's a shot at me being an athlete versus a shot at me being a person. If I went
Right.
out into the field and someone was like, "You're a terrible brother," I'd be like, "Whoa, hold on there."
Take that back.
Yeah. So it's like, "Oh man, like you suck. You have butterfingers." I'm like, "All right, man, like cool." But
Whatever.
um, yeah, that's definitely a hurdle a hurdle I had to cross.
Yeah.
In all this was like there's also like a bit of like a responsibility I feel like I have because I want to have a positive influence on people. I always want to build bridges and not burn them, and Sometimes, I just wanted to stay authentic, and I wanted to stay humble regardless of what happens. That's always kind of like a oath I said to myself was, regardless of what happens, like, just keep your feet on the ground. And I
Yeah,
think that has kind of helped me out in helped me out this year, actually.
that's awesome, man. We got some quick fire questions from the audience.
Yeah,
So these don't have to be elaborate answers. I just hope they're honest.
of course.
Number one, who on the team takes the hardest shots on you at practice?
I think the strongest kick would go to Diego Gomez. This guy can kick the ball the hardest I've ever.
Hurt your hands?
Yeah, like one of those. But yeah, definitely Diego Gomez.
Uh, if Messi were to shoot 10 goals on you, how many are you stopping?
It's a good question. My competitive side will say I'll go 10 for 10 on saves,
There
but
you go.
we'll have to see what happens if that
But the
ever
other
if that
side of
ever
you is
goes.
thinking the fact that Messi's the one taking the shots. So,
Exactly.
jeez.
Yeah.
What's another good one? What would you be if you weren't a soccer player?
If I wasn't a soccer player, I think, not that I think, I feel that I would be in some sort of like teaching position. Like you mentioned earlier, I was been into yoga. Like I love like human optimization. I would love to be
Mm.
in that space of helping people become their best selves, get fit, get healthy. I think that's a calling that I've had to myself, is just having like a healthy, active lifestyle. So if I could
Yep.
in some way have that be a way in which I could fulfill my purpose and serve, is to help people get better.
Do goalkeepers just stand and do nothing while your team is on the other side of the field?
To some, it may look like that, but to those who are aware, we're constantly adjusting our line depth from our defense to fulfill like a sweeper keeper role. If there's a through ball, we're communicating, we're anticipating the opponent's offensive attacks, and we're also, just standing doing nothing is the only time I'm standing doing nothing is, I don't think I'm ever standing doing nothing.
All right, three more. Favorite European club?
Favorite European club? Growing up, it's funny, growing up, me and my brother, we would always watch Premier League on Saturdays. And my brother was much more into soccer than I was when I was a bit younger. And he opened me up to the world of Manchester United and all the great history that club has. I think that's probably my favorite club.
Mm.
And then to be able to be coached by Phil Neville and have the owner of my team be David Beckham was a surreal experience, having had those experiences with my brother growing up.
That's epic. Who's the biggest inspiration in your life?
The biggest inspiration in my life, I'd probably say my parents. It's because, beyond work, beyond everything that they've done, they've showed me unconditional love, and they've been there for me, and they've been themselves. And that's something that I want to strive to pass down to my family, is showing unconditional love, and doing everything I can for them. So yeah, man, that's definitely an inspiration for me, because I think that goes beyond sports. It's like everything for me is like family. So to have parents who did that for me is awesome.
Love that, bro. Last one. What's your favorite cheat meal?
Favorite cheat meal? Cheat meal. I've been having a few of those now that season's over, but I'd probably say like a deep dish pizza.
Ooh.
deep dish
Ooh.
pepperoni pizza. So,
Were you a big artichokes fan at Cal?
for about 2 years, and I was like, all right, I should probably. I've eaten this way too many times. I might have to call it. But
Bro, that's a wrap. I mean, this was epic. I appreciate your time. We haven't connected in a while, and we need to keep this going. But to hear insight into your life, your journey, playing with some greats, with a team by David Beckham, like it's like every young athlete's dream is to be able to be in the room, share a field with some of the icons in your sport and some of the people that like you looked up to. So that's just a testament and a culmination of your journey and your hard work and dedication and everything you've done to be in the position that you're in. And so it's well deserved, it's earned, and I'm stoked for you, bro.
I appreciate that, man. Like, that's some great recognition. And I mean, you're the one who has created this platform, has created this podcast, this idea of the chase, and to be able to share some of my story and share the lessons, share what I've learned, and giving some insight into my life in hopes of helping people understand their path and what they
Yep.
want to do has been a great opportunity. So thank you for that.
No, you're welcome, brother. It's good to hear from you. It's good to chat, and we'll stay in touch.
Of course. Appreciate it, man.